Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's interesting. Three of our witnesses talk about an amendment to the bankruptcy code, and one says that the bankruptcy code would not have helped. And my experience in my practice, which has been very limited in bankruptcy, at least allowed for due process, notice to creditors, notice to debtors, and in fact, put them on notice that they may only receive pennies on the dollar of what may be owed them. And yet, underneath Title II, it appears as though we are creating a situation where those creditors, even those shareholders, have no risk if a bridge holding company takes over. Is that your understanding, Mr. Skeel?
That's absolutely my understanding. And as I said earlier, the creditors that are most guaranteed to be protected are the fancy financial contracts and derivatives that cause problems.
With the obvious competitive advantage that a bridge holding company has, you also have a situation that's so contrary to market forces that says where you have increased risk, you may have increased return. And so if I'm a shareholder in a company that's now part of a bridge holding company, my risk is almost eliminated. Is that not true?
Absolutely. As long for up to 5 years, as long as that bridge company is going, it's a protected entity.
And Mr. Cribinger, let me ask you this. Under Title II, is there any due process for these companies?
Absolutely.
And what would that be? I mean, obviously it's not a full due process that's allowed under the bankruptcy code.
There is due process. In fact, there's the bankruptcy code provides for ex ante due process, if you will, a hearing before a judge. Part of the reason Title II has an ex post, in other words, you have a right to file suit against the FDIC for making errors or doing something with your credit that's inappropriate after the fact, is because of the need for speed in financial insolvencies. And let me, if I might just clarify one thing, I may have been misinterpreted. I absolutely believe that improvements to the bankruptcy code should be done and will be very helpful.
And I think they should be too, because not only are we talking about financial institutions, there are some SIFIs that are too big to fail under some people's interpretation, but what about non-financial institutions? I mean, if we're allowing now for this process to go through that totally ignores our bankruptcy, what about Walmart? I mean, what's to prevent them from having some regulatory reform system in place to keep them from going for bankruptcy? My point is that we are taking traditional due process methods and not allowing companies that have created a high risk, poor performance, and allowing them to succeed to a market disadvantage. Now, Mr. Taylor, Dr. Taylor, you talked about 3 of the disadvantages, one of which is the lack of having to be liable for taxes at every level. Do we know what the cost of that is?
I don't think it's been estimated. Unfortunately, maybe that's something you could request.
I think I will. I think it's, quite frankly, I think that the cost of tax exemption will probably outweigh the benefit, if any at all, is in saving these companies. Now, let me ask you this. The risk-based assessment, the last step in the event that we have to now repay FDIC and we go to the good players and we assess them, their share, if you will. What happens if you have a mutual company, a savings and loan insurance company that now has to be assessed, that's done everything right? Are they able to recapture the cost of this assessment in their rate-making process with their consumers? Does anybody have a comment on that?
Most likely, absolutely. They'll be able to capture it partly by passing it on to their customers, whether they're regulated or not. Quite frankly, that's, you know, economics says that kind of it's a tax.
So if I'm a consumer that has a AAA-rated mutual insurance company that's now being assessed, I'm going to have to pay for somebody who has been a bad actor. This reminds me of a situation where we have created the ultimate hangover cure in Title II. And every morning, these SIFIs, these systemically important financial institutions that are performing badly, can take this hangover cure and go on and continue to perform. And yet they do so at the risk and at the cost of those who are not the drinkers in this situation. Lastly, one of the 3, give me a second here, Dr. Taylor, you talked about the competitive advantages, including capital requirements. So if my state of Florida has certain capital requirements for an insurance company, those would be totally disregarded by the bridge holding company under Title II. Is that correct?
No. I would just say it would not, because certainly under Title II, the insurance company, frankly, an insurance company is not really eligible for Title II until it's already gone through a state
until it's deemed a SIFI. But there's the process is there, and I've only got a second. The process is there that if they have been deemed significantly important financial institution as an insurance company, they can have lesser capital requirements in conflict with state regulation.
No, that's not true, but we could talk later,
I think
certainly.
the example of the insurance companies, there's many other examples you could use for which the capital requirements could be lower as entitled to it.
And I will follow up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.